In today's podcast, we've selected some famous and some not so well known quotations about happiness. We hope they will help to make your life happier and improve your English. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with nearly 60 years of teaching between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you doing, Craig?
I'm very happy today, Reza, to be podcasting with you and sharing what we do know about English with our lovely audience. So I'm very, very happy. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, although I would be even happier if the band playing music in the street right beside where we're recording didn't interrupt us so much, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah, you might hear that during the podcast, but I mean, they're happy, so it's kind of like happiness. So it's nice that I think someone's getting married. It's nice that they're very happy and playing music outside. First this week, we have a voice message from friend of the show, Ezekiel from Argentina, who's speaking about Reza's grammar question recently. Do you remember? You asked about vos and usted and the formality in Argentinian Spanish. Well, let's hear what Ezekiel has to say.
Hello, Reza, Craig. Here I am again, Ezekiel. Yes, Reza, we do use the word usted, and I'm pretty sure that we use it everywhere here in Argentina, in every region, especially to the elder, to refer to the elders, and also for when you are a customer. Here, it is usual to hear usted when you go to a shop, or the salesperson tend to use usted, even though you are not an old person. Yes, it is pretty common, but yes, it is more usual when talking to old people. By the way, I wanted to suggest a podcast about politics, and maybe if you can give us your opinion, because I do know that you don't involve very much your personal opinion in the podcast, and I think it's really good. But maybe you can talk about the right, the left, the far right, the far left, the Republicans, Democrats. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your message, Ezekiel. One small thing before we speak about your request to speak about politics. You said an old person, which is fine. It's not a mistake. Everybody understands that. Although it's more polite to say elderly. An elderly person is more politically friendly, I think, rather than an old person. Any comments, Reza?
Yeah, I also think that Ezekiel said the elders at one stage, but that's not right either. As Craig said, it has to be the elderly. There is a word, the elders, but that's like the older people in a specific group. It's not like the elders of a church. It's not like all old people, so it has to be the elderly. Another little thing, you spoke about American politics. You spoke about the Republicans, and you should have said the other ones are the Democrats. You said the Democratics. No, it's the Republicans and the Democrats when you're talking about American politics. Democratic is an adjective, which is universal, but the Democrats are specifically that American political party.
And you are absolutely correct, Ezekiel. We don't like to speak about politics on the podcast. Everybody has their own views and their own opinions. We don't like to divide the audience to say one side or the other. And I think if you've been listening to us for long enough, you probably got a pretty good idea what side of the political fence we stand on. And I think you probably know more or less what we think about things. But we have spoken about politics and government and that kind of vocabulary before, haven't we, Reza?
Yes, a long time ago, episode 89. Bear in mind, this is episode 588. So 89 plus 500 more, almost a long time later, way back in 89. politics and government. And also, quite recently, politics and election vocabulary. So that was quite specific. And that was in episode 526. There's a link in the show notes, but it's very easy to find the episodes. You just put inglespodcast.com/ and then the number of the episode, 89 or 526.
So thanks for clarifying Reza's question, Ezekiel. And Marcos from Argentina did the same thing. He left a comment on our website, inglespodcast.com, and he said, I'm a long-time listener of yours. Thank you very much. And these days I don't have enough time to send a voice message, but I'll leave this comment just to clarify that in Argentina, we use the word vos in an informal way. It's not the same as usted. It's more like tú in Spanish. So there you are.
So thanks to both of you, Ezekiel and Marcos. You've clarified the use of vos for me. It's something I wasn't clear about. So thanks. You've cleared that up. Now I understand.
So let's move on to our focus of this week's episode, and that's famous quotations about happiness. We have spoken about some quotations before, specifically referring to the movies and films. If you go to inglespodcast.com/289, you can see some quotes that we selected from movies and films that we like. But today we're talking about quotes that refer to happiness. Now, I've chosen 8 quotes that I quite like, and Reza has done the same. I haven't seen Reza's quotes before, so maybe we could do this alternately, Reza. Maybe start with your first one, and then I'll say one, and we'll do it that way.
That way you get to hear the different voices and the different accents, which is always a good thing. The more accents you hear, the better. I say that as someone who still finds it difficult to understand...
Me?
No, not you, Craig. To understand dialogue in Argentinian films. Don't be offended, Ezekiel and Marcos. I love your accent. It's just very difficult if you're not used to it. And I have to get used to it if I want to speak good Spanish. So different accents are definitely a good thing, and you got to push yourself. So me first. Here goes with the Belfast accent. My first quotation would be this about happiness, right? There is only one happiness in this life: to love and be loved. A nice simple one to start. That's by George Sand, depending how you want to pronounce it. Sounds like a man, but it's not. It was the pen name of a woman writer in the days when women weren't really appreciated as writers, and she wrote that. But what does it mean? If I had to explain it a little bit more, I would say it means something like this. Everything else which isn't love, right, is irrelevant in attaining true happiness. There's only one happiness in this life: to love and be loved. Nothing else is really going to help you attain true happiness. And also that the love must be mutual. That's why we have the active infinitive, to love, and the passive, to be loved. So you've got to give it and you've got to receive it. That's where happiness is at. That's what George Sand is saying, I think.
George Benson said something similar in the wonderful song, The Greatest Love of All. To be loved and be loved in return. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a lovely one to start us off. My first quotation is from Abraham Lincoln. And he said, folks is a word, Folks, that Americans often use instead of people. Most folks are happy as they make up their minds to be. Meaning, your happiness often depends on your attitude, not your situation. So it depends how you interpret the world, your problems, everything around you, and you can change your mind to be happier. Do you believe that, Reza?
Oh, definitely. Very, very good one. Very important. Look at the evidence. There have been many cases throughout history of people who are extremely rich, no health problems, no other economic, financial, political, social problems that we know of, who've killed themselves. Oh, why did they do it? They were millionaires. They had good health. Why on earth would you kill yourself? They weren't happy.
Yeah.
If you don't think you're happy, you're not. Whereas someone in Yemen or South Sudan would look at that and think, what on earth did this person kill himself? I live in a war zone. I don't get to eat once a day, but I don't want to kill myself. But a millionaire in good health kills himself because they're not happy, because they don't think they're happy.
Very, very true.
My second quotation about happiness is from Immanuel Kant. And he said, rules for happiness: something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. And what I think he's saying by that is that activity or purpose or both things, also a loving relationship, and also hopes or dreams, they are the cornerstones of happiness. Those three elements are necessary if you want to have happiness. What do you think about that one, Craig?
Yeah, well, I think that's also very true. Something bigger or greater than yourself, like if you have purpose or meaning or cause in your life beyond your own self-interest, then that often helps you to be happy. So that could be a charity that you help or donate to. It could be a religion that you follow. It could be some kind of cause like environmentalism, or even vocations like teaching or nursing. If it's something bigger than your own self-interest, then that leads to happiness. But hope is also really important. I don't know if you remember the wonderful actor and comedian Bob Hope.
Yeah.
You remember him? And the singer, the country singer Johnny Cash. Mm-hmm. And then we had Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Well, now we don't have any hope, any cash, or any jobs.
That's good. I like that.
I hope Kevin Bacon's feeling okay. My second quotation is unknown, so we don't really know where this comes from, but I like it. The happiest people don't have the best of everything. They just make the best of everything. So happiness is about appreciating what we already have, not what we want. So just look at your life and think, wow, I'm really lucky to have what I have. I must be happy. And another similar quotation, which is basically saying the same thing, comes from Rabbi Hyman Schatzel. And he says, happiness is not having what you want, it's wanting what you have. So again, that comes from appreciating what we own and what we have in our lives, and we're not chasing more and looking around the corner for what might make you happy. Just be happy with what you have.
I like both of those. Okay, our third quotation, I'll go first. It's from the Roman philosopher who I've been reading a lot about recently because Craig lent me a book, which is very interesting, about the philosophy of Seneca. And the reason is because of the podcast, because recently we recorded an episode about Stoicism. Craig's been a fan for a while, but I wasn't so familiar with Stoicism. And Seneca was a great advocate of Stoicism. And he had a lot of good lessons to teach people in life. And here comes one. My third quotation from him is, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. And I guess what Seneca's trying to say is, if I explain it a bit, enjoy the good moments of life when they present themselves and forget about your worries at that time. So you gotta live the good moments. Yeah, don't be thinking, yeah, this is a great party I'm at now, but tomorrow I've got to give that presentation. I don't know. Forget about the presentation. Enjoy the party now. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's very philosophical and very good. Live in the moment. Very often we're regretting things that happened in the past, or thinking about what we've done or what we've said, or we're planning for the future and worrying about what might or might not happen, instead of living in the moment and just enjoying the here and the now. Very strong message. My number 3 is quite a personal quotation, and it's from a book I'm reading at the moment called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm a big fan of James Clear. He writes a lot about habits, and he says you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And what he's saying there is, For me personally, I, in the past, focused a lot on goals. You get to the new year, you make New Year's resolutions. I used to make quarterly goals for work, for example, maybe for fitness or exercise, goals that I wanted to achieve. And what James Clear is saying is you really should focus more on the systems. So in other words, your habits, what you're doing every day, and that in turn will take you to your goals automatically. In other words, if you exercise regularly and you have an exercise habit, eventually you'll lose weight and get fit. So you don't have to set the goal of becoming fit. That will naturally happen. So that really appealed to me, and I think that can help people be happier if they put systems in place, like studying English, for example. Many people say, I've got this goal to learn English. Well, what are you doing? Put a system in place, make sure you're doing regular study, regular practice, and then automatically you'll get there. Let's take a quick break here because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students, and we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Okay, let's go to our fourth quotation. Here's mine first, from someone that I admire very much.
Your favorite author?
I would say is my favorite author. It's certainly the most influential author I've ever read in any language, and I'm sure a lot of people around the world would agree. It's from George Orwell. His pen name, Eric Arthur Blair, his real name. And he wrote simply this: happiness can only exist in acceptance, which perhaps isn't the most joyful of our quotations, but he is right, isn't he? Because I think he's saying only by truly accepting things as they are, but not as you'd like them to be, can you achieve happiness. So you've got to be realistic, and things are as they are, and some things can't or won't be changed. If you can live with that, then maybe you can achieve happiness. But if you can't live with that, you're not going to be happy.
And you can't change things anyway, so why not just accept them? You can't change the state of many things, so yeah, just take things the way they are. My next one is from Mahatma Gandhi, the wonderful Indian leader and passive resistor to the English empire in India. And I admire him very much. And he said, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. So real happiness comes when there's no conflict between what you're thinking inside, your inner thoughts, your words, and your actions. Now, what you think, meaning your beliefs, your values, and your inner feelings, what you say is how you express yourself to others, and what you do is your behavior and your choices in daily life. So if all three of those, what you think, what you say, and what you do, if they match, if they're synchronized, if they're aligned, then you feel at peace with yourself. But if you think one thing and you say another thing and you do something completely different, that might make you feel stressed, might make you feel guilty, or even dishonest. So to summarize, really, happiness is living authentically, Gandhi is saying, without any inner contradictions. Would you go along with that? Do you agree with that?
Definitely, yes. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Gandhi's quotes. There's so much to learn from him. In fact, if you'll allow me to digress slightly for a moment, I can't remember the exact quotation, but he had an extremely good lesson, thought on forgiveness, which I love. At the time of the fall of the British Empire, which Craig was mentioning, in India, and there was a lot of trouble, strife, bloodshed, particularly between ethnic groups and religious groups in India. This Hindu couple of the Hindu religion had their baby slaughtered by Muslim rioters in pure sectarian violence. And they wanted to be good Hindus and they didn't know what to do about it. And they came to Gandhi and said, we can't obtain forgiveness. What can we do? We can't do it and we know we have to. And he said, yes, you can. You must adopt a baby and it must be a Muslim.
A Muslim baby.
Yeah. And it must be a Muslim. And they're like, woof, that's a good one on forgiveness, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about that? That really blew my mind.
Yeah, he was. And a lot of his themes were simplifying life when he was weaving clothes that was tradition in India and wearing very simple clothes, eating very simple food, which again goes back to Stoicism, that simplifying of life and appreciating the basic things to be happy.
Okay, so our fifth group, I love the way there's a lot of connections here, which Craig and I honestly did not plan. We did not plan them, but there's a lot of connections I see happening here. Mahatma Gandhi spent a very important part of his life in South Africa, where he learned a hell of a lot.
That's where he became a lawyer, wasn't it?
That's where he became a lawyer and where he found out a lot about racial tensions. South Africa, very good place to find out about that. And my next one's from Nelson Mandela, no less. And it's this: there is no happiness without pain. Pretty simple. I think he's saying we only really appreciate being happy, the actual state of being happy, if we've also previously experienced bad times. So if you haven't felt bad, if you haven't felt pain, unhappiness, then you won't really know what happiness is when it comes. I think that's what he's saying.
That's maybe why we enjoy having holidays so much, because we're working and suffering the rest of the year trying to earn some money. And then when we finally go on holiday, we enjoy it so much because we're not used to it. And one thing that occurred to me as well with pain is how quickly we forget pain when we don't have it. So although we might feel angry or frustrated when we're in pain with something, as soon as the pain disappears, we kind of forget about it completely. So I think it's important to maybe wake up one day and think, oh, wow, I'm not in pain. That's a reason to be happy. Number 5 for me is from the Buddha. Everybody's heard of Buddha. And he said there's no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. So the path of Buddhism, happiness is not something we find later down the road. It's how we live now, how our life is now. That's where the happiness is on a day-to-day basis.
Here come our 6th quotations. First mine. From a famous English writer of the 19th century, Charles Dickens, from the Victorian era. And he wrote, "Happiness is a gift, and the trick is not to expect it, but to delight in it when it comes." And my interpretation of that is that you should fully appreciate the good moments in life, but without demanding that everything always will be as you wish. Yeah, so that way you really appreciate the good things when they come and you'll have true happiness. If you're always expecting it to go your way, just as you wish, you won't really then have happy moments. I guess it's a bit like Nelson Mandela's one, there's no happiness without pain. It's a bit like that. Yeah, delight when the happiness comes, but don't expect it. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Very philosophical as well. My next quote is not so philosophical, although there is a lot of philosophy in it if you think about it. Happiness is a warm puppy. Puppy is a baby dog. Who said that? Charles M. Schulz, the person who wrote Peanuts and Charlie Brown cartoons, later developed into cartoons for the internet television. Happiness is a warm puppy. And I think what he means there is just the simple, small things in life, like picking up a lovely little warm puppy and cuddling the puppy. That can bring happiness, small things. Sometimes I go out for some fresh bread from the local bakery, and walking back, I just break off the top of the lovely warm bread that's just come out of the oven and I eat some. And those small things in life that you appreciate on a daily basis, that is where maybe true happiness is.
Yeah, I've always loved that quotation. Yeah, I like that myself. Okay, we got a couple more each. My seventh one is from the Dalai Lama, so related to Craig's from the Buddha, I guess. And the Dalai Lama said, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. To simplify it even further, you might say, you'll only feel happiness through doing good deeds. In other words, it doesn't do you any good thinking about happiness. What are you doing to create that happiness? Your deeds are your actions. That's where the happiness is. Don't philosophizing about it's not going to get it. Do something.
Yeah, people say that if you do work for charity, if you help people, even in a small way, like helping to carry your neighbour's shopping or helping an old lady or an old man across the street, those small things when you're giving to someone else from the goodness of your heart always brings a lot of happiness. My number 7 is from another Stoic. Reza mentioned Seneca before. We have Marcus Aurelius here, who said, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. I'm sure Wessel from Brazil will be happy to see a couple of Stoics in our list of quotations. I'm sure he's listening. And what Marcus Aurelius, I think, is saying here is if you think positively, you will feel happier. So as we said at the beginning, you can change the way you look at life and the way you feel about things, and you can change yourself to feel happier if you think positively.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I agree with that entirely. Though at the same time, I go back to the one I mentioned earlier from the Dalai Lama, that it comes from your actions. So yes, it's true that you need to have a good quality thoughts to be happy. I agree with what Marcus Aurelius is saying. But even so, I believe the Dalai Lama is right. You're still not going to actually achieve happiness if you don't actually do something to get it. So thinking, quality thoughts is important. But you've also got to, be involved in good deeds. I think both things are true.
Yeah, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
No, exactly. They're not.
You can be happy both ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I'm just adding to that the thinking alone is not enough. I believe you've got to actually do as well as the good thoughts. Okay, well, we've said earlier, I think we were going to do 8 each. So here are our last quotations. I'm going a bit further away for this one. It's a translation, obviously, because it's an ancient Chinese proverb. So in English, it translates something like this. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. A nap is a siesta. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else.
Yeah, that's going back to number 7, isn't it? Happiness comes from your actions. Yeah, self-explanatory.
Yeah, explains itself, doesn't it? Help someone else. So do something good.
My final quotation is quite humorous. It's from Oscar Wilde. And he said, some cause happiness wherever they go. Others, whenever they go. Meaning, some people, it's lovely to be in the company of. If you're sharing a room or a nice meal with people who are good company and make you happy, then that's great. And some people, maybe you'd be happier if they were not in the same room as you or sitting at the same table. So whenever they go, whenever they leave, you become happy. But people are people, aren't they, Reza?
Yeah. And Oscar Wilde is so good at those witty is short and funny quotations about just about every topic you can think of in life.
Yeah. What was that one? I can resist everything except temptation.
Exactly. He's always turning it on his head. Another one is something like, there's only one thing worse than being talked about. That's not being talked about. Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah. But now it's your turn to practice your English. What do you think is the secret of happiness? Do you have any pearls of wisdom for us? Can you share any lovely quotations that will help people listening to the podcast be a bit happier? We would love to hear from you and see what you think. You can send us a voice message. Just go to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe.com/English podcast. Or you could send us an email with a comment or question. You can write to me. I'm Craig at inglespodcast.com. Or to reach Reza, write to belfastreza, R-E-Z-A, @gmail.com.
If you're a Spanish speaker and you want to improve your English with either free or paid resources, you could visit the Mansión Inglés website at mansioningles.com. And for specifically paid products, you can also browse the online store at store, S-T-O-R-E, .mansioningles.net.
And before we go out the door today, we'd like to say thank you very much to all of our lovely Patreon supporters. And they are people who help keep this podcast going by joining our Patreon program. By doing so, you'll get instant access to the transcriptions of this podcast so that you can read every word that we say. And you'll also be invited to a Zoom chat every month so that you can practice your speaking. For more information, go to patreon.com, patreon.com/English podcast. Reza, who has joined us this month?
Yes, our new sponsors, but not our only sponsors, are Jesus Vilamajo, Sara Fernandez, Schnapperus, also known as Marvin, Amparo Soto. Amparo, I hope you're having a good time in the Pyrenees, by the way, on your holiday. Juanma and Carmen Roldan. Thanks to you, but thanks to all of our supporters who've been supporting us since before this month as well.
And we need to mention also Pedro, who has recently joined, and Maria Elisa Alvarez Torres. So thank you to you and to everybody out there who's helping us on Patreon. What's next week?
Next week, we're going to talk about car boot sales and second-hand shops.
Look forward to that next week. And until then, have a lovely week. Thanks for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.